Hello and welcome to Stampscaping 101. My name is Kevin. I'm the owner and designer of the Stampscapes line, and I thought I would do a winter scene right now. I'm applying my bare rubber to the acrylic block with a little bit of the tack and peel. You can see the tack and peel strip right here. It's something that you permanently adhere to an acrylic block. And as I was doing that, I was thinking I could probably just do a little composition right onto the acrylic using a few of these stamps. I might use get some additional impressions off of a couple of these ones, but I thought for the initial kind of composition I would just go with the three of them kind of composed on the acrylic itself. And let's see, let's move this around. I can see how large this is, of course, going to be flipped around, but I would move some. I was thinking about even putting in some bushes on there right off the bat, but I think I'm going to save that till the end because I like those types of elements nice and crisp. This is going to be a moonlit winter scene, and I'm just using a basic black ink for these images. But I thought, instead of just going with just straight black, this is a manganese blue, I thought I would run some of that through some of the images. Some of the impression part of the image, just to give it a little bit of variation. It'll be a little bit of a varied black, with a little bit of a hint of some blue. Okay. Go about like so. Okay. A little bit of a gray blue, I think. Alright, let's get additional impression of these rocks right here, these snowy rocks. Okay. And I'm just doing these in just straight black. Sort of like that. With me, I know that I really like doing a lot of highlighting detail, so these kind of exposed rocks with a little bit of snow are going to be a lot of fun to apply a little bit of the white gel pen on, so I'm kind of laying down a lot of them in there. Okay, this is a kind of like a snowy bank right here, and this is a moon, and I'm going to have the moon kind of peering out from between the trees when all's said and done. This is a Prussian blue. It's a very dark blue. And let's see, I'm going to wipe off a little bit of the area around that moon, around the rectangle portion of it. And you know how I'd like to, if you watched any of the other videos, I kind of applied some pigment ink around the moon, just to make it seem a little bit softer. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to try to make it softer, inherently softer, just by wiping off some of the ink around the moon itself, so maybe it'll give the feeling like it's like glowing. Okay, a little bit softer around the edges there. Okay, and I'm not going to worry about the edges here because I'm going to be placing some trees on each side. This one right here after I mask off that, but I'm gonna put that in later. Okay. Alright, let's see here. Get my stylus tools ready. And let's see. Let's start applying some blues here. This is going to represent snow. So as I start applying some of this ink on here, I'm going to be careful in my coloring process not to color it out too much. Oops. This impression right here, this black, is still a little bit wet, so I'm streaking some of that in there. I know that this is a cloudy blue, Adirondack Lights. Okay, this is really smearing that out right there. This is no doubt an unscripted series of instructional videos, as you can see. But I don't know. All that stuff though, like that, when that happens, it really doesn't matter in the end. Okay, this cloudy blue is really dry. I'm going to have to re-ink that as well. But let's take some raw, or just some re-inking fluid. Okay, ink that up like so. And much better. Getting this ink flowing across here. And yes, I do think that that smearing and streaking does not look too good. But again, you know, knowing how kind of the end result of so many different layers of ink come together, I know from experience that, you know, all that type of stuff that goes on kind of in the first couple colors is not really going to matter in the end. It'll all come together, hopefully. Okay, let's see. Okay, if that moon is going to be my light source, I'm going to be careful not to color it all out or tone it out. And I see these areas on the snow. Those are going to be capturing and reflecting some of that light. So don't tone everything out if you want that extreme contrast going in your scene of, you know, darks and really reflected bright light within your scene. Retain some of the white of the paper. It doesn't have to be a lot, but I would recommend leaving some of it, because you, and then if you get down to the end, and if you apply all your darker colors, you can always go back in and apply more of the lighter tones back in if you think you left it too light. Okay, that was the, well, that was a cloudy blue Adirondack Lights. This is called Seashells, is what it used to be called. But that was really Ocean Aqua, which is now Aqua, of the Adirondack Lights line. Okay, now this is a Salvia blue. It's one of the lighter blues within the Marvy Matchables line. In fact, it is the lightest blue. And I'm going back into the scene, and again, being careful not to tone out the areas that where I've retained the white of the paper. Okay, all right, and let's go into the next color, light blue. And this is kind of getting moving into some of the medium blues. You see I'm kind of going along this and retaining some of that little mound of snow. Okay. Going into the water. Those all smudgy smears aren't quite as stark, you know, in terms of the visibility of them. Okay, and my light source over the snow is starting to show a little bit more. It's a little bit more visible because of the contrast that we're creating, you know, the spaces around it. Okay, now this is one of my pens that I re-inked in a previous video, and this is a manganese blue, and this is a Marvy brush marker, and I really like the you know, the vibrancy of this color, and it's super bright. So you can just, if you have some pens that you really like, kind of, you know, the brush marker like this, it's easier to do it with because it's so wide, but I can just kind of roll that on there and start applying it like that and get a really good saturation. Something like a real fine tip pen, you know, maybe that doesn't work so well, you know, with the amount of ink we're using, but I don't know, as long as it's a dye-based tool, you can give it a try and see if it works out. Okay, let's move up into a much darker color. Let's see, before we get to that Prussian blue, here's the Marvy number 3 blue. Okay. Okay. All right. Okay. Going into the terrain, you can really see that area starting to kind of stand out. And remember what I was saying about all those smudges, you know, that were kind of created with the first color. They're slowly kind of starting to fade into the background. We have a kind of an oscillation of light in here. We have light, dark, light, dark, light, dark, light, dark. Okay, and that kind of varies the, you know, the values across the scene, and gives it a little bit more kind of a visual interest in terms of a varied surface. Okay, and I think we're ready for that Prussian blue. Very dark, very nice. Looking at this pad right here, looks like I might start to have a little bit of fraying on there of the pad. And these pads are probably, I don't know, not all of them, but a great deal of them, as far as my matchables go, are probably 10 years old, so, you know, that's a lot of use, too. They've traveled with me to workshops and demonstrations where they're getting heavy usage, so more usage than, most of the times an individual would, utilize something, so I don't have anything to complain about. Okay, I will continue this one in part 2.